All right, here we go. This is not going as planned. I wanted to do this video with my expensive camera that I have had for a long time. I did not buy the camera for this intended purpose, but I've had it for a while. When my son was born, I wanted to get back into taking a lot of pictures. I went to school for photography, so it was like multi-useful to me. The upside of it was that it was one of the best cameras known for vlogging and like all this other stuff. And life got ahead and I never ended up using it for that. So I've got it here. And I'm in my car because I'm just trying to navigate things at home as far as like making videos or however I plan to do that. And I felt like it was more comfortable in a space like my car where no one can hear me, everything's kind of like quieter and all that. And I can't even use it because the angles in here are not good, and I thought maybe I could set it up on like the middle part of my dash, and it's just not working. It looks horrible. Not that it looks horrible like the camera's bad, but I just mean the way that it has certain settings. It's not like wide angle or anything like that. So I have to like navigate that too. Like I'm not familiar with what I'm supposed to be using, so I'm gonna have to look it up. But it's just like the angle was so bad, and you can see the steering wheel, and I was like, nah, this isn't gonna work. So anyway, I wanted to make a video because my intention was to possibly dedicate finally 100% of my time to doing this, making videos, so on and so forth. I have notes on my phone, so the whole point of using this other camera was so that I could hold my phone to reference the notes that I have, because I could talk and talk and talk and ramble, and I could forget things, whatever. And now I'm doing this on my phone and I can't view the notes. So I'm just like, kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so I'm going to go off of memory. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go off of memory and hope for the best. So the intention for this video was to kind of like have an intro, if you will. I sort of tried to attempt to do this years ago. My son was a lot smaller and I had very limited time, which I can touch on in another way at another time. But my point is that he was smaller, life was chaotic, I was working, and I couldn't 100% commit. And I'll touch on that again in the video later, just being that like it's a part of why I'm choosing to do this now. It's gonna be a little choppy. I have to learn how to edit too. Like, I'm good at editing pictures because, as I said, I went to school for photography, so I had an entire class dedicated to Photoshop. Like, I can edit a photo, shortcuts and everything, 100%. But editing a video, I've never done before. At this point, again, referencing using the good camera, it was supposed to be good quality, good, like, everything, and now I'm using my phone, and I just hope that it all works out. So bear with me because it's going to be choppy and all the things. Okay, so referencing the notes. Intro. So my name is Mandy. This is very uncomfortable for me. If you know me, this is a little weird. If you don't, I am 38 years old. I'm about to be 39 at the end of this month, June. And I have been a creative person basically my entire life. I have always touched in artistic ways, whether it be literally like art in some form. I'm not like an artist technically. I don't paint or anything like that. I don't draw. But my point is, like, I love the idea of doing it, or like any touch of artistic ways is how I am. And then the biggest thing about me is that I love music. Music is literally, other than now being a mom, it's like literally my entire life. All this to say that I have always loved incorporating, I guess is the word, everything that I love all into one. So with that being said, given my age, I grew up, like, if you can look back on the videos of people talking about like millennial this, millennial that, and like if you were raised in the 90s and so on, like I love those videos, don't get me wrong. And they're correct. They're 100% right. Like we grew up in a time that doesn't exist anymore and all of that. But I always loved the computer. I always loved being at the computer. I was always looking at pictures and all the things for what it was at the time, not what it is now. And one of the things that I loved doing was I loved taking pictures and uploading them. There was a website, I don't know if anyone's going to know any of this, but it was called DeviantArt, and you can upload your pictures. People could buy them. I never went to the extreme, like no one bought anything. I didn't dedicate like my life to it or anything, but I had fun doing it. YouTube, I think it was around, but it wasn't what it is today. And it's not, it wasn't even like a thought of like, hey, did you know you could do this with YouTube? Like it was literally, I knew of it kind of, it was there, but it wasn't something like people were dedicated to like, oh, I uploaded my video. Like I had no knowledge of what this YouTube was. I just knew that I heard of it and it existed. And so all that to say, you know, and then I was dedicated to things like MySpace, and like obviously the main thing in my life at that time as a teenager and so on in that era was obviously talking on MSN. That was like all you did. The reason I'm mentioning all this is like MySpace, MSN Messenger, you know, and things like that. It was a way to have creativity in a sense, in a form. So like, for example, MSN Messenger, I would, you know, you had like the pictures and the backgrounds and like your cover photo and like, you put like the songs you were listening to and like things like that. Like I always like to express myself. And then if anyone remembers anything about MySpace, which actually I kind of don't remember everything, but, I know that a lot of it had to do with like, again, expressing yourself. So like you had a song playing, and like if you were good at coding, like you could have like amazing backgrounds and like all this kind of stuff. And there was more to it than that, but my point is like that was an outlet as well. So I definitely was involved. I didn't 100% commit to it in a sense of like some people actually like, I remember one girl I went to college with like years later, she was like, I was MySpace famous. I was like, oh, you were what? I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I had it, but like what? So I was so confused. I'm like, I had no idea that that was like a thing. So, I mean, considering the way things are now and like looking back at what that could have meant, I was like, you were what? Like, I was so confused. I just used it for creativity, all of that. So anyway, see, this is how I ramble. So anyway, all this to say, I've always been creative. I've always loved the idea of finding ways to, as I said, express myself. Now, to fast forward, I go to college, which I can explain what that was maybe now in, you know, later in the video or like in another video. But I went to college a couple times. By the second time around for what I went to college for, it was 100% a creative like outlet as well, which like I said, I'll touch on. Graduating, my main focus, because again, referencing the millennial thing, in my head, I was told, you know, you got to go to school, you got to get a job, like all of that. Like I said, those videos that people make are true. Like that's 100% what your mindset is. Your mindset is literally like, get good grades, go to school, you graduate, and you get the job. I was solely focused on getting the job. So I dedicated everything to an internship. I volunteered. I did everything that I could to get this said job. And somewhere along the way, well, like I said, music is my passion and I love it, but like I didn't lose anything music related. But what I mean is like I lost my creativity. I lost everything in me to dedicate to things again, like how I was saying I did before. So I didn't realize, because I was so out of the loop, if that's the term to use, but I was so out of the loop that I didn't even know people were quote unquote doing YouTube or like on like Tumblr and like making videos and whatever it was at the time. I had no idea. So here I am living this life trying to get this job, and like all these things are happening that I had no idea about. And it was only until I think probably when I moved to where I am now, so 2016, I remember being told like, oh, look it up on YouTube, or like, look, you know, so-and-so post videos about this or whatever. And I was like, what? And I like had to like learn about it and get into it and realize like, oh, this is what this is. And when I look back at it now, it's kind of funny because the people that I watch myself like right now are saying like, oh, I've been on making videos on YouTube for like 10 years. And I'm like, where was I? Like, what? So I had to learn everything, and I had to figure out like, this is like legit really a thing. And so all this to say that once I started to realize like, oh, people actually make money off of this, like, wow, you know, I had interest in it, and I started to build up in my head like, wow, wouldn't that be nice to be able to literally just sit there, talk about something you love, something that you're passionate about, share your life, like whatever it might be, make money from it? Are you kidding me? But then a part of me was like, okay, like logistically, like what does that take, or like how long? So I started looking into it, and I was like, yeah, I can't do that because I need money. I have to work. I have to have a job. Like, again, going back to that mentality, it's like, that's what I more or less grew up thinking and knowing, and that's all I knew essentially. And so in the back of my mind, it was there. It was always there. It was always like, oh, but if only I could. And yet I was so dedicated to working and knowing like I have to work because I have to have an income. I can't do both. And then I started to realize, again, once I started following people and like actually like getting into their videos and like the history and all of that of like things they've shared of like what they've gone through, they even said like, no, like in some videos anyway, some of them would say like, I've had to work and do this on the side. So then I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, okay, that could work, I guess. But it's just like, in another way, it's just, it didn't seem realistic because it's like, it's still not a paycheck. And I just was like afraid that if I put like everything into it, it's going to be for nothing. Like there was a lot of things going in my mind. I'm shocked I'm even doing this right now. The other side of it is, and this is no disrespect to these people. Like, obviously I'm a fan. I love their videos. I'm not going to mention names or anything, but like, these people are beautiful, you know, they do hair, they do makeup. Like, I'm talking like female content creators and people that post on like YouTube and stuff. You know, they've got beautiful hair and everything, and they're dedicated. Like, they make sure they look good for the said video. And what that did for me was it made me feel like I don't have that confidence. I can't do that. And that was another element of it where I was like, this is another reason why I can't do this. So it was just every little thing like that just kept adding to reasons why not to do it. And I kind of got into a slump. I went into a slump of just, like I said, I lost my creativity. Like, my passion for music was always there, but it was like, I just couldn't get out of this funk. And as I said too, like, keep in mind, like, I was working, but I was working at a job where it was like, yes, it made me money. I should be grateful that I had a job. So like, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm not grateful, but it was not what I went to school for. So it was kind of depressing. I was always like, oh, like, when will I ever get the job? So anyway, again, I feel like I'm rambling. There's a lot of factors, okay? So what it comes down to is I end up having my son in 2020, which I can do a whole other video on that when I can get the hang of this. That's a whole other story in itself. And so I have my son in 2020. The world is a disaster. I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere with a newborn. I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, not literally, like, he's the greatest thing of my life, but I just mean, like, as far as like this stuff, like creating videos or anything, I couldn't see myself doing it. I wanted to, again, in the back of my head, but I just couldn't see it. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't taken videos and pictures, because I will tell you, with this camera and just my phone in general, I have thousands. There's actually, I found it once, there was like a meme thing going around that I saw, and it was like, when you grow up in the night, this is just like, I think this is summarizing what it said, but it's like when you grow up in the 90s and you have one picture from like 10 years of like your life or something, like your parents only took one picture, but you have 1,000 from like 9 till like 12 on this day. Like that's me. I literally have taken, and this is no disrespect to my parents or family or anything, it's just, it's kind of like funny. I joke about it, but it's like true. Like I literally have nothing to show for, you know, certain times in my life, because, you know, there were no pictures. You didn't take pictures like how you do now. And quite literally from birth until now, I have thousands. Like, I think there's like 5,000 pictures with a mixture of videos on my phone right now of just my son, and just like, it's crazy. All that to say that it doesn't mean that I'm not doing it, because in a way I kind of was, but I wasn't like sharing it publicly or anything. And I'm not the parent that does not show my child online. Like I have family and friends on, say, like Facebook, where I would share a couple pictures here and there, but I have to say I actually did really good with that. I didn't share a lot of videos and pictures of him. I just did like minor little basic, like, you know, hey, like, look at how cute he is, or, you know, oh my gosh, he's one, like, you know, like, just like very minimal. However, all these said pictures and videos I was taking, I would send privately to certain people, like my parents, my grandparents, so on and so forth. So I definitely was in it, as in meaning doing the quote unquote content, but I wasn't sharing it. I could probably honestly make like an entire video of just the videos I've taken of my son. Like, it's crazy. I have so many. I could make it like a movie. I'm not going to do that, but my point is I could. And so I feel a little guilty, because it's like, I wish I would have just done it and I didn't, but I kind of think about it now, like, well, you know, so he just turned 6 years old, and he is at a point in life right now. He's so smart. He loves numbers and math and just everything. He's such a smart kid, and he has so many interests, and he is creative, but he's not like, you know, I can't say for sure that like, oh, you know, he shows that he is going to be so good at said thing. Like, it's kind of all over the place. Typical time for a kid just to like explore and stuff like that. Constantly playing with cars, monster trucks, all the boy things that he does. But we're at a point too where he has interest in things like, for example, a couple weekends ago, we went to go see the monster trucks. He was so excited. He had so much fun. And I took some pictures and, you know, for the memories and stuff like that, but I didn't film anything. And it's like, that could have been an example of an opportunity where I could have like turned it into something, but I didn't. And I'm kind of thinking like I should have, but that's just an example of like I'm just thinking ahead, and I'm thinking about, okay, so he's at a time now where he might want to do things like soccer. He loves baseball, you know, all of that. And I could be filming that. I could be taking videos of that. So that's just sort of like where my mind is going as far as like the content, as far as like kid wise. The other side of it is I'm also looking at it like, okay, so like I said, I could make an entire video of my story, which I'm not going to talk about everything in this exact moment. But yes, I had a child during the pandemic. It was a nightmare. Couldn't do anything for 2 years, quite literally. I feel like we missed out. I feel like we didn't get the opportunity to, you know, like, he's a tiny little baby, you go shopping, you do all those things. And I want to do that now. He's in school, so it's different. So the way that I would be able to create videos and like the way that I could dedicate myself to doing this fully looks a little different than what it would have been if he was like a newborn baby or smaller. currently I'm trying to figure out like what I can do to navigate that. So anyway, I feel again like I'm rambling, but my point I was getting at with that is just that like, well, my son has interests and I could definitely use that as an opportunity. I also have interests. I want to be able to show my country. I said this already, I am from Canada. I am from Ontario. I kind of don't know if I want to say where I'm from. I mean, it would make sense if I said the city, because then it's like you can get an idea. If I say Ontario, that could mean anything. Yeah, maybe I'll just say it, and then if I change my mind on how much I want to share, I'll figure it out. Well, I'm not from here, but I moved here 10 years ago now. Holy. I am in London, Ontario, and we have a couple options. The city is huge. The city is great, huge, beautiful, all the things. Toronto is 2 hours away, which we don't really go there often, especially with a kid. There's not really too much you can do. Like, we went to the aquarium recently, and that was like okay, but you know, it's long for him still. He doesn't really like traveling a whole lot. But anyway, and then an hour, so that's 2 hours away. And then an hour from here, we have Kitchener, we have, you know, all these other kind of like main cities. And then 2 hours roughly the other way is Windsor, which touches the border to Detroit. I do not have a passport. I hope to get one. I plan to get one. I would love to be able to travel and, you know, go shopping and things like that. A lot of people do that over there, whether it's Detroit or in Sarnia. We have the border to, is it Port Huron or something like that? I keep hearing about that. So we do have options, but that's sort of like what I'm surrounded by. And then sort of north and kind of like all in between these other cities are like small little towns. Small little towns. And now, mind you, these are small towns that are like nothing, like just a road going through farmland. But then also I see a lot of people do content creation, and there are small little gems that have like little bakeries and like things like that. And I love those kinds of videos. I could definitely do things like that, where I could go to these places and so on and so forth. So that's an option. But what I would really like to focus on is more about sharing my country. What I mean by that is like sharing where I am, yes, but also like all these videos that I watch of all these other women that are moms, and they do like mom vlogs and things like that. I love them. I still watch old ones over and over because I'm just obsessed with how like they did those videos or whatever. They're American though. And again, no disrespect, but it's just like they're American. So like I can't relate to anything because they talk about going to Target and Home Goods and like all these places that don't exist here. So I compare, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like I compare. So like when they say, oh, we're going to Target, well, the only thing I can kind of relate to that would be just like Walmart, which is fine, but like that's all I have. And then another couple comparisons would be like, okay, so, and actually, honestly, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure, technically, I think the companies are actually all owned by a main corporation. So like, even though those store names are American, we have like Canadian versions here. Or technically, they could even just still be American, but we just have them here. Like, I'm not exactly sure. But like, okay, so Home Goods, like Hobby Lobby, all of that. For us, that would be HomeSense is the Canadian version. Michaels, which I think is in the States actually. And then, what else is there? Oh, I've heard this theory, which I don't normally shop there, so I probably could start like looking into going there. The Trader Joe's thing seems amazing and really cool, and I would love to maybe go there one day if I can, but apparently our version of that is Farm Boy, which we have a lot of, so, and I never go there, so it would be interesting to see the comparison, I guess, or just like see what they have. I mean, I've been in one, but like I've never shopped. I need a drink. How Canadian. I've got my ice cap. So anyway, when I see these videos and they're American and I love like what they're sharing, like I said, I can't relate. So for me, I would love to be able to show like, hey, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to Walmart, I'm going to Michael's, I'm going here, I'm going there, and see if anyone can find it relatable. Like, I'm new to TikTok. I've never used TikTok before until now. I use it separately for my music related things, and I still am very new to it. I have no idea what I'm doing. But what's funny is the algorithm, it's showing me Canadian content, which I love. And mind you, it's not all just like literally Canadian people and like towns talking about things and things like that. Like it is, but it's a lot of people, interestingly enough, where they're like, hi, I'm from such and such and I've moved to Canada. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I love that. And I think it's really, really cool. But deep down inside, I would love to just have so much around like what I'm familiar with, what, you know, this is what I grew up with, this is where I used to go, and some of the things don't exist anymore, unfortunately, so a lot of it can't be that authentic, but it's just the example of like, that's the kind of stuff that I want to show and I want to talk about and all that, and yeah, I'm just really excited, and it's the confidence thing. This video is all over the place. If you're even still with me at this point, I'm shocked. But yeah, so I just want to be able to have a bit of everything. Oh, and that's the other thing I was gonna say, actually, is again, no disrespect to these women that I'm watching, whether it's old videos or whatever. A lot of these women are so comfortable, and you know, like I said, they look a certain way, and I kind of use that against myself. But another thing I want to touch on, they clean. I can't do that. I clean my house, obviously, but I can't do that. I can't make videos. Now, here's the reason why. I thought about it. I really did. I thought about it, and then I was like, I can't do it. I live in a very small townhouse, and that's another added bonus to why I'm hoping this can all work out, but I'll touch on that in a second. I live in a very small townhouse. Into perspective, we were lucky enough to move in there. My son was literally like he was 2 months old, super small. We looked at it as like, okay, we need to be grateful that we're offered this like opportunity. Yes, 100%. We were in a very small apartment and we needed the space. Now, anyone who has kids or knows how kids work, if you will, it was great at first. He was so small. He was in the bassinet. Like, he was just in our room with us. It's a 2-bedroom, but my partner's mom lives with us. And so I want to be respectful of like space of others and my partner and like all of that. So like, I have to be careful on, they never said this to me. This is like what I'm thinking, but I want to make sure that like, you know, I'm not like invading space and whatever, even though like it's home and stuff. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. But he was super small at the time, and it was different, you know? And then he started getting bigger, obviously, and bigger, and we had like a little mini crib that someone gave to us, and it was great at first. But you know, he got so big, he transferred into a toddler bed. The toddler bed is in our room still currently because my partner's mom has the other room, which is fine. But as time went on, you know, you get so comfortable and, you know, life happens and you don't, you know, it's expensive here right now and you don't really have options. And so he just keeps growing and growing. And we're at a point where we're like, okay, like this is getting to be like, not as in towards my son, like he's amazing, but I just mean like he needs his own room, you know, like rightfully so. Like he's a kid, like he needs his own room. He needs his space and all that to say too. That's just the bedroom. I try so hard. He has so many toys. And I say that like not a lot, but enough where it's like, you know, we only have so much room. And it's starting to come to the point where it's like, it's getting to be too much. And we also have things like artistically wise, like, you know, I have a lot of music stuff. I have guitars that are put away where I can't even have them out. Like, just an example. We need to move. That's what it comes down to. Now, like I said, oh my gosh, this video is all over the place. But anyway, so what it comes down to is, hopefully by committing to this and doing this the way that I hope it can work out, if I can build a following, if I can get people to have interest in my life, if I can get people to relate and understand, like, you know, they're Canadian, so like they get it, you know, maybe I could make money from this. I don't know. But if I did, I do have some goals. Number one, we need to move. Ideally, best case scenario, we can have a house, which if anyone is from Canada, please, like, you know, like, the housing market is absolutely ridiculous. Cost of living is just, don't even get me started. It is horrible. It is horrendous. It is not livable right now. I love my country, but this is getting bad. The cheapest house that I could find that was like livable and like, you know, nice, anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000+, which is unrealistic right now for other reasons. But anyway, and so getting a house is like number one on the list, ideally, but moving in general in some way so he can have his own room, we can have more space, all of that is key. It's 100% on my list, number one. And then after that is pretty much just like basic things. Like, sure, I want to be selfish. Like, I would love to do things for myself, but that's not a priority as a family, or just like having my son have experience that maybe like I didn't have as a kid. You know, we did things, but like to a certain extent. And when we got older, we didn't really do a lot. My parents sort of went on their own and did things. I would love to travel. I have never been, well, I've been to BC. I've been to Vancouver once to visit someone, long ago. I have not traveled since then, like far. So I have a list of things I'd love to do. And then aside from that, I don't know, like I said, he's 6 years old now. He kind of has interest, but like is losing it a little bit. We have to touch back on it, but my inner child wants it because I never got it. I want to do Disney so bad. He used to love Mickey Mouse, which he kind of still does, but not really as much anymore. But he loves cars. Like Lightning McQueen is his life right now. Has been for the last like 4 years or so. So if I could give that experience to him and kind of heal my inner child, I would love it. So that's on the list. It's all just like ideas and like the kind of like background of why I want to do this. And I've chosen to do this now because another thing to mention, I had a job and then I went on maternity leave. I went to go back to the said job because legally, at least in Canada, Ontario, I'm sure other provinces, but for sure Ontario anyway, when you are on maternity leave, technically, you are supposed to go back to your said job. I did not do that because I was told that they couldn't have me back because of my daycare needs. And I was at that job for 4.5, pretty much almost 5 years. So 5 years roughly total with my maternity leave included. It was a nightmare, but mind you, it was the pandemic. So rightfully so, it's a bit of a craziness there. Eventually I went back later down the line, but point being, I didn't go back when I was supposed to. Panicked, didn't know what to do, so I took some online classes to do a law clerk program, which never got a job. But all that to say that after that happened, the store, where I worked during this said maternity leave, or not during, but like before and after, it was family run business. They closed. They were older, they wanted to retire. No disrespect, but they closed, and so I lost, quote unquote, lost my job essentially. Had to go find another job. Complete panic of like, I have a baby. Well, not a baby at this point. He was 1, but like, it was just a nightmare. So actually that said company reopened under new ownership, and that was a disaster. They didn't ask me actually. My former coworker was, quote unquote, the manager, I guess, if you will, at that time. And she's like, hey, like, you can come back. And I was like, okay, great. Like, I know that place inside and out. I know all of it, but it wasn't the same anymore. It was different. And so it just didn't really end up working out. Anyway, in the end, long story short, they didn't pay us and it was a nightmare. So ruined my life. So I had to quit there, but I wasn't really quitting anything because like the company went downhill. In the end, they ended up closing and it was I don't know, a whole thing. They lost everything. So I'm kind of glad I got out of there when I did. So back to square one, complete panic, didn't know what to do. This is not something I'm used to. I have been consistent with being at jobs for X amount of years in a row. So like before that said job, before like the one when I was on maternity leave and stuff like that, when I was going to school before I moved to London, I was at the Walmart bakery for 5 years, going to school and, you know, transferred to come to London, so on and so forth. It was a whole thing. But my point is I was there for 5 years and then fast forward another 5 years and I'm working at the same job. So I've had consistent jobs in certain timelines and that's what I'm used to. Yeah. So in the end, having all this like no job thing, it was stressful because I'm not used to it. I usually always have a job. So after this whole upset of like not paying us, so on and so forth, I was like, I'm panicking, like I need something. So I finally was like, okay, I'm going to try and apply at this said music store. So I ended up getting the job and it was super exciting. I was like, holy crap, like finally, right? It was part-time, which I was like, hey, that kind of sucks, but whatever, like I'll deal with it. I'll figure it out. At least it's income. So it turns out that it was part-time. However, I felt like it was full-time because I was there all the time. Yeah. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying like it just ended up being like more than like it's hard to explain. But anyway, I was there a lot. And so being there technically part-time / full-time, having a child's in daycare at the time, transferring to like starting school, like it was a lot. Had it been part-time where it was like once or twice, maybe 3 times a week or something, it would have been a little different. But because I was there so much, it just made mom life a little harder. So I was navigating through that. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I love it, but also I need full time because money-wise, financially, like it just wasn't working anymore. And I hated it because I loved the thought of me as a music person working at a music store, but it's like realistically, like I need something else. So I had to find a different job, which I found an office job. And I was told like it's office work, all this stuff. And I'm thinking like, okay, if I'm quitting this music related job for this, it better be great. So they were paying more than minimum wage, not by a lot, but they were paying more than minimum wage. And they had promised me all these things. Yes, it's office work, all of that. I start working, and let me tell you, it was not office work. I'm not going to name names, obviously, but like no one's going to be watching this that knows that place or whatever. But either way, it was not office work. I bought these cute little shoes to wear because when you're in an office, and they had me going in and out of a kitchen and commented on how I need better shoes. Let me just say that. I was not happy. I was so upset. I had so much, I already have anxiety. It was the worst. I was so depressed. It was so horrible. I could not function. I was like, this is a disaster. I cannot do this. This is not the job description that they explained to me. I hated everything about it. And it is not in me to quit. Okay. Like I don't do that. I have jobs all the time, like I said, but I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And I was exhausted. So after finally figuring some things out, I was like, I have to do it. So I quit. I quit and I was like, I'm going to have to figure something out. So took a little bit of a break and it was great. Actually, it was great because I finally had a moment to like relax kind of, because really you're not relaxing when you don't have a job, but to a certain extent. And I'm like trying to relax. I'm trying to do all the things to like calm down and like yet still look for jobs. Can't find anything. I spent 7 months trying to find a job. current situation, I find a job, which is great. They tell me it's part-time, all this stuff. And to me, part-time is like, I don't know, 20, maybe 25 hours, something like that. And yeah, I'm working like 4 hours. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So to circle back to the beginning, if you're still watching at this point, the beginning of this video, I was saying like, I wanted to be able to do all these things and dedicate, because I've tried before. I've tried where I'm like trying to dedicate, but yet my focus is like, it's not a stream of income. Like I have to work. In this case, I've got the job. I'm supposed to be working, but I'm not working. Yeah, so I'm getting 4 hours. This week I didn't even get a shift at all. So I'm like, you know what? That sort of set up the mentality for me of where I'm like, I just have to commit. I just have to do it. So I'm gonna do it. Yeah, this is not going off of the notes that I had. I did not reference one thing probably. I'm gonna figure out the camera stuff because I would have loved to have had my notes to be able to reference. I'm going to edit, hopefully figure out how to edit this. Hopefully it's good quality. Hopefully all the sound is okay and everything. Yeah, if you've made it this far. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna do a part 2 because this was supposed to be like an intro thing. I'm gonna do a part 2 and then we'll just go from there. I don't even care. I don't even care. I'm just gonna do it. I don't care what I look like. I don't care how it seems, how it sounds. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, thank you. If you've watched this far. Okay.